Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Unblocking Success podcast, hosted by yours truly, John Pearce, Head of Commercial for London Drainage Facilities. And this is, of course, a London Drainage Facilities production. Today, I'm incredibly fortunate and pleased to be able to be joined by a director for none other than NG Bailey, Richard Royal. Thank you. We'll kick off at the beginning. Rich, thank you so much for taking the time to come down and to come through. I know we had that mutual connection in Nigel Lucker that obviously suggested.
Nigel, yeah. Thanks for Nigel.
For having this chat. And I'm really excited to have a chat with you to find out your backstory, the history, and everything else in between, right?
No,
so
excellent.
I usually say the best place to start is at the beginning. So maybe if I hand the floor over to you, you give us a quick heads up about your backstory and how it all started for you.
Wow, yeah. Thanks, John. It's quite a long story.
Yeah.
I know we've got an hour.
Yeah, we've got time.
But we've got time. Yeah. So, yeah, I left school. Didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Thanks to my parents, I ended up getting signed up with a local electrical contractor.
Nice.
Yeah, as an apprentice, JRB apprentice then.
Yeah.
Blimey.
Yeah, it's going back.
Apprenticeships, with the proper apprenticeship papers and mum and dad signing it and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I embarked on my journey of becoming a qualified electrician. That was basically domestic.
Yeah.
Some bits of commercial and stuff like that. But I was lucky because where I live is RAF Mildenhall.
Okay, yeah.
And part of the USAF base and RAF Lakenheath. And obviously that was a government establishment then, so I managed to get a job on there as an electrician. But I know I had a lot of friends that worked up there and plumbers and fitters, and I worked for the PSA.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Please don't add some names to that because there was plenty of going around at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I embarked on being a maintenance electrician, I guess, so to speak. But with the Americans on the base, I had an amazing experience.
Yeah.
The training was superb. I managed to get my C course, my ONC, HNC, all sorts of other training in terms of bolt-ons to be an electrician. So,
how important and valuable do you think the apprenticeship program was for you?
Massive.
Yeah.
I as I say, I came out of school. I've obviously done, O levels as they call them then, CSCs and stuff. I'd have got the usual prospects of either because university wasn't the thing, wasn't the path then.
Yeah.
It was get out and get a job or, I originally wanted to go and work to Marshalls in Cambridge.
Okay.
But they changed it to the YTS scheme, which was like £25 a week, I know.
Yeah.
And I had to get there to Cambridge for that. And anyway, knocked it on the head and I ended up with this local electrical company. But then moving with the apprenticeship, obviously it was all JRB, went to the local college. And I found further education for me as I got older was better. I just seemed to adapt to it better than school time. So when I did my C course, obviously it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in terms of using applied mathematics and engineering, but it was really interesting and I sort of got through that. And then the HNC, the ONC, but it was all funded through the being able to, when I worked on the base, all funded and it was a better slow progression for me to becoming an engineer. Also, obviously, the management that I wanted to get into. But say working on the base or with the aircraft, with the various factors that I could get into, it basically gave me a grounding for all building services.
Yeah,
I ended up on airfield lighting.
Oh, really?
It's fantastic. Yeah. I absolutely loved that. I had 2 years on that.
Wow.
It was quite intense training because it was obviously, it's not just a case of switching the lights on and off from the tower. It's all telemetry but really interesting. Got involved with some big projects with Americans in terms of changing the approach lighting and bits and pieces like that. I also did really interesting, I don't know if you remember the Blackbird.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Stealth.
No, the Blackbird, there was the plane before that, which was the long
the
Mac
one, right?
3
Okay.
or something, the one
in one of the most recent Top Gear. Is that the one where he starts off with, I think, maybe?
Yeah, it's in one of the Transformers films.
Right, okay.
Where they go to a museum. It makes it sound old, doesn't it? But they went to a museum and one of the Transformers is a Blackbird.
Right, okay.
But that used to fly up just near space.
Yes,
and spy on, obviously, in the Cold War.
Yeah.
So there was a team that's dedicated to the hangar for the Blackbird because it was part of the because of obviously we're coming to the end of the Cold War, but it was still active.
Yeah.
It was all run by Lockheed. So Lockheed were not part of the American military, but they were there. So we were in a different division. So working on that was, I really enjoyed that because it was all, quite advanced equipment there. So we had the beginning of gas absorption chillers.
Yeah.
HV, MV. So I got involved in
real high end.
Yeah,
stuff.
got trained as an AP on HV. Yeah. So that journey led me to one thing led to another with sort of families come along and moving and buying a house and
the usual stuff of life.
Yeah, because unfortunately the MOD was a great job.
Yeah,
wasn't particularly paid brilliant. The benefits and everything were fantastic. But so I moved couple of jumps through refrigeration companies and stuff. And but going back obviously through the base, I'd been through main electrics, MV, HV, laundry even.
Wow.
Boilers, petrol and lubricants. Yeah. So I'd sort of gone in and out of everything. Managed to get a sort of a feel for that. And then I went to work for a company called Aqua, which was over in Cambridgeshire, which is a building services company.
Right.
Long-term engineering, installation, and I had a maintenance. I'd been actually working before there for Rolls-Royce, which was odd, but it's the combustion side.
Okay, yeah.
So I'd been involved in commissioning steam and hot water boilers, but sort of high end stuff. For that was really interesting.
Yeah,
but it took me all around the country and sort of a little bit of overseas. But I ended up wanting to come back and get a little bit more grounded in the local area. So I ended up as a maintenance engineer for Aqua Plan Maintenance, they were called then.
Yeah.
And then I was there 17 years. Yeah.
Hated it then?
Yeah, I did, Couldn't wait to get out. But no, I mean, that was my beginning of building services, was obviously where I am now. Yeah. So went from service engineer to, advanced through the ranks, basically to contracts manager. I was very fortunate to be working on the Essex County Council contract as it was then.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a great time. That was really hard work. It was an MTC and NSR scheduler rates.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So everything, first time I've been introduced to scheduler rates.
Yeah, we work with them as well,
Yeah, so there's a price, won the contract, maintenance and repairs, and you're going along and it's...
It's so funny, so many businesses have got such varied views on that. Some really love working with National Federation of Rates, and then other people go, no, I can't stand it. There's too many SKUs, too many lines. It's too formalised, governed, policed.
Well, because I think this was the first first experience for us as a business within that type of. So everything was on a scheduler rate.
Yeah.
But I think it was designed, as you'd probably agree with me, building. Yeah. Installation. Yeah. So you've got a rate for a ladder going up and down. Exactly. You've got a rate for a hole. Drilling a hole through a wall. How big's that hole? Don't know. 15 mil, 25 mil. Yeah. You get an extra quid. Yeah. And then we were working with W.S. Atkins at the time, which was a big consultancy out of Essex.
Right.
And so we're doing the basic maintenance, and then we were also doing the repairs. So we were running a team of all the county's properties, commercial properties. So it's quite a big area, Essex, big county.
Yeah, it is.
And but anyway, it was a quite an experience year one when you so you've got engineers, say for instance, get a call out to no hot water. Yeah. So great. Immersion heaters, etc. All gone blind. Changed the immersion heater, excellent. Put the bill in. I don't know, 250 quid saved for the day because the guys spent quite a bit of time. Yep. They'll come back and go, actually, it's £12.50. Yeah. Pardon? Yeah. You've changed an immersion heater, it's £12.50. Yeah. So you're like, oh, yeah, right. Better get my head around these scheduler rates and how you can make it work for you, and you can, and you could do it properly. And I think we invested in software and stuff in the early days of. Estimating software, and once you get your engineers aligned to how to do schedule rates, so turning up, isolating, disconnecting, draining, there's all the rates,
all in the detail,
all in the pay, and it taught me how getting that the detail back. Yeah. And I think we turned it around, and it was a very successful contract, and we delivered a good contract, and but then obviously things evolved, and they went for the TFM contract. I think it's now just at its anniversary now finished. So 10 years, maybe something like that. So the times have changed there, but so I progressed through that. The amalgamation, Aqua went through changes. They were Imtech UK or Imtech Ireland, I think, and various
versions of it.
Big company, came in and we were sold. The owner was decided to sell up, sold Aqua as a business. We joined Imtech. I enjoyed the changes. We obviously went from a family-run, smaller, localised business into this big UK business. You know, obviously with completely different thoughts on how to run a business and rules and commercial and procurement. And, you know, everything you have to do is done through a different route. But really good experience. I ended up actually running an office out of Brentwood, but then also getting involved down in Docklands for a bit. So really interesting. Some nice clients, some different clients. But and then Imtech carried on buying businesses, and they bought Environ, which is another local Suffolk-based maintenance company, come out of Ipswich, I think, really successful. But the disappointing thing was the two facilities companies, so Aquaplan Maintenance and Environ, came together but didn't work.
Right.
It was weird. Two really successful businesses.
Yeah.
A bit like oil, like oil and water. So just wouldn't mix.
Yeah. What do you think it was? It wasn't
conflicts of different ideas, different ways. So we want to go left, they want to go right. Yeah. Both the right route.
Internal politics.
Massive. Who's the best? You know, was it that way? Was it this way? Who's the best CAFM? Was it this one? This one? So I was kind of losing a little bit of not interest, but faith in the business going to be where I want it to be personally. And I was also traipsing down to Docklands, is quite a haul from where I lived in Suffolk. But then I got called to come back up to Cambridge. We've got a business that we want. We've got maintenance, but it's not doing anything at the moment.
Yeah.
Company called Kershaw Mechanical had a tiny maintenance facility born out of the installation. So they'd sell a 1-year maintenance contract.
Right.
And these guys were doing it. And I thought, wow, I'm an opportunity to start fresh, start my own own stamp on it, how I wanted to do it. Got my ideas and went in. I was to say, it was a rough ride. I had a real smack in the face with the first 2 years. Yeah. With just obviously the nuts and bolts of how a business should run.
Yeah.
Right top to bottom. I was okay. I was a little bit isolated, and I was providing.
So you were literally in at the deep end,
smack bang deep end. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Figure all this out.
And you know, it's the classic. Quite friendly faces when you're walking, and then a couple of months. Are you bringing anything in? You know, and that was only a little bit naivety for the owners, really, because I think they hadn't really experienced, this sort of. The way I did the business, where I wanted to go, who I wanted to bring in, et cetera, et cetera. So they were a little bit sort of, But I had some great guys in charge of me there, some people, Gary Smith and guys like that were my MD and really had faith in me. So I quickly learned about business development, as you well know.
Yeah,
we could get out and win a lot of work, but it wasn't the right type of work. We made a lot of mistakes in them early days. Yeah, in terms of let's grab as much as we can, and then found out we maybe couldn't deliver it, or we hadn't read the.
Such a fine balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah,
going from. You've got that ambition where you want to take on absolutely everything. Just say yes, figure out the rest.
Yes, yeah, exactly. We'll worry about that later.
Yeah, we'll worry about that later. Yeah. And then finding out that balance between, okay, that is the right work for us and we can deliver on that, or that's going to give us the volume of work that we need. Yeah. All of that.
I was lucky because I'd managed to get an estimator who was very clever. And he started to ask the right questions. You know, do we want revenue? Do we want margin? Do we want both? How are we going to do this? So we need to get the work, but we need to get the right work. Yeah. And we also need to get the people. Yeah. That's where it all started to put together, because we was consistently doing work, but not doing it at the right level, or making lots of errors in terms of mistakes. And generally, I guess, how a business grows or starts its life. But Yeah, so some hard thinking, some sweat, some tears, some difficult decisions to make.
What were some of the more difficult decisions you had to make when you were in that business?
I think letting people go that normally I probably wouldn't. Yeah. Making that tough decision that they're not going to be the right fit at that time for the business.
Yeah.
And also turning down, like you say, work. Mm. Interesting, tenders or contracts that come along and just not going to fit us right. So we had to get the strategy right. I hark back to my days at a particular guy, Martin Johnson, who always said to me, just back your winners.
Yep.
And that came into me. I needed to get back to not just trying to back everything, like let's put a bet on everything. It's back where I thought they were favourites, where I knew I could. So public sector, and then also education. Mm-hmm. Whereas I had a lot of experience in terms of academies and education, and also public sector because of the consistency of the work those establishments would get. So steering away from retail.
Yeah.
Steering away from domestic. Anything domestic was going to. Guys can do domestics. Companies can deliver domestic, but we couldn't.
Yep.
We just weren't geared up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was our early learning curve for us. And then, as I said to you, also key was the people. Mm-hmm. So important, and the relationships and with the clients, and because we'd gone through difficult conversations, but finding that. Because you started to build relationships, those conversations were a whole lot easier to have. Yeah. I'd sat in conversations with a local police federation down there, Suffolk Police, and we'd got a long-term relationship. And there was difficulties with the pricing and etc. But an honest conversation, and they don't want a failing contractor as much as we don't want to be a failing contractor. So worked our way around. So I always, you start to build the relationship was the key. Yeah. And people. Yeah. Just getting the right people.
Yeah.
Paying, not say throw money at people, as you know, but making them feel empowered, learning a lot about how where they want to go.
Yeah. I think communication in general is just such a key part. Like you just said a minute ago, there's so many instances where you will take on a contract, you will start off with great intention. The client obviously wouldn't have onboarded you with the intention for it to all fall apart. But if it's not right for you commercially, you've got to at some point have that honest conversation. Just say, look, this isn't just going to fill us.
We've walked away from contracts, had to sort of shut the door and say thanks, but we can't.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one because normally you wouldn't have businesses that would do that.
No. Yeah.
And I guess it's experience built over the time. We then started to, like I say, grab a little bit of hold of the mountain and started to climb and started to be successful and because I came with the obviously the strategy that we were going to deliver operational excellence. That was what I wanted to do. Wasn't in it. Well, obviously, was in it to make a profit because obviously we got to pay for everything. Yeah. But I wanted to be operational excellence and reputation. I did not want to. But where you hear, they're great they were, like you said, they were great for 3 months and then just didn't even bother come and see me or didn't give us a call or didn't hear from them ever again or they charged too much so I wasn't going to have that in the business, as so to speak. We wanted to deliver what we say and deliver it correctly. Mm-hmm. And so we went, as our business grew, unfortunately, as a victim of circumstances, business, commercial decisions, and a little bit of COVID. Obviously, the fallout of COVID, but also a bit of fallout from the Grenfell.
Yep.
We had a roofing company that couldn't continue because of insurances and bits and bobs. So we were literally, like I was saying earlier, we literally had the announcement one day. That's it. The administrators are in. Yep. We can't find a buyer for the whole business. The business is going.
Did you have an inkling on the run-up to that announcement?
Do you know, the classic, lots of directors in and out.
Yeah.
Lots of people being appointed and not appointed and changes, people leaving. So you kind of...
Get an inkling.
And then obviously debt. You get a lot of people, we're not being paid, we're on stop with the big suppliers, which was unusual. Yep. And you kind of know, I hadn't been through that situation before, other than the sale of my previous company was a positive sale. Mm-hmm. Cash rich company sold.
Yep.
Not a rescue I suppose you'd call it. So that was a massive body blow to the business. You obviously immediately thought, so we're all going to be, that's it.
Yep.
Going to have to look for a new path, a new job. But administration came in and, as we were saying, we were going to be sold, that the FM business was going to be sold, or put up for sale, I guess, as part of the sale. Mm-hmm. Interesting times. It literally was like a clock ticking for us. It wasn't a long process. It was so short. We had dwindling funds. Mm-hmm. We had clients. We still, because obviously then there's the, how do you get the right message out to your client, your contracts, because you're working for public sector, so they're not, they're going to react differently to a company under administration. So that, again, it was communicating, getting that right message out. We're here. We're still rolling.
Everything is
normal. we're underneath paddling like crazy, trying to
swans.
Administrators want a raft of information. Mm-hmm. To the point of how much is this worth? What about that van? What about these pair of steps? Where are they? It's all got to be taken account of. And then you've got the nasty side of it, where people are turning up demanding money, from the business. These people have since left, but anyway.
Yep.
So that was like a sale, I guess. Like you can imagine, we got businesses interested in.
Yep.
Because successful and fantastic for us. NG Bailey, we're at the top of that list. Couldn't believe it. It was like, wow, NG Bailey.
Yeah, big.
Yeah,
big.
We obviously being from the trade, knew NG Bailey, and they went through the process fantastic and diligently and super quickly, really. For what I think I was told, we did it in 2 weeks when it should have taken maybe a month minimum to do that sort of process. Mm-hmm. And interview with various managers and directors from NG Bailey throughout the business. Mm-hmm. On Teams, really, on Teams and Skype and all that sort of business. And I was there sort of promoting the business, and you got asked, you're going to get all sorts of questions then. Every question thrown at you because they want to know. Every bits and bobs of the business, from your debt, from your cash flow to your prospective WIP, to your clients, to people.
Yeah.
And then you're juggling other people's lives as well. So I'm having to keep my staff updated. And
how did you find that time?
Stressful.
Yeah.
Really horrible, if I'm honest. Not something I'd want to go through again, hopefully. Yeah. But also, is it right? It's enlightening. Like it's getting a little bit of a buzz from the meetings, because actually you're then using all your years of experience and
put it through.
Because not only I wanted to save the business, so to speak. Not it wasn't just me, but the whole team.
Yep.
And there was some worrying times. It was like a time clock. It was like buying a house. We was one day when we was waiting for the paperwork to be signed by NG Bailey. It's like getting your keys.
Yeah.
It was like, is it happening? Is it happening? Yeah. NG Bailey team were up the road in a hotel waiting to come and see us.
Yeah.
But as they came through brilliantly.
Yeah.
And their team, led by Sarah Hodgson and the Esther and the mobilisation team, were absolutely amazing. I mean, bringing us all on, making us feel super comfortable, because it was obviously we had 2 casualties from it. 2 people left from the whole, and we probably John lost 1 contract where they were a little bit naive in the communication and just thought, well, we thought you'd gone. Right. But anyway, so
realistically, not a massive impact then on the grand scale of things. Where it could have been. Obviously, a loss is a massive thing in any event. Yeah. But where that could have landed could have been so much different.
I think it was due to the professionalism of NG Bailey and their experience, because they were chooping, doing big contract changes consistently up to that point. Yeah. So whether we were a smaller faction, but obviously we had. I mean, I can't. Looking back, they were, the way they brought us on board in terms of vehicles and uniforms and engineers, everything happening quickly, but positively. Yeah, engineers. I mean, their lives, technicians we call them. The technicians were obviously T's and C's and that were remarkably improved because obviously NG Bailey. So they were like really, really happy, And we were lucky we didn't move far in terms of property. We literally walked across the road into another office. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we literally picked stuff up in cardboard boxes and went over the road.
Off you go.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And that was in 22. So here we are.
Here we are.
And the NG Bailey wanted, obviously, traditionally hadn't got anything in that East Anglian Cambridge region. And we also were bringing the factor of like education and different factors.
Your experiences that all of you would have
could
had.
Enhance their yeah. So so here we are. Yeah, I'm director at NG Bailey for the Cambridge division, I guess, and we came across with our contracts. So we're still sort of split in a kind of a weird, funky area in terms of, but with the likes of the University of Suffolk with Nigel, and we're looking to bring our core into Suffolk and Cambridgeshire and Essex North. We've got a really good relationship with an Inspiration Trust in Norfolk. Yep. Where we're doing about 30 academies, and that's in its second to third year now. Been really successful. Maintenance, obviously, and repairs. We've got the Suffolk College next to the uni. But the uni experience was one, like we were saying, I've been chasing the uni for too long, I think. Yeah. And I finally got it.
Yeah. Perseverance paid off. Yeah.
And do you know what? It's a fantastic place. I'm not just saying it because I like the area on the marina, on the docks. Yeah. And Ipswich is my town, my football club. Yeah. We won't talk about that because Nigel's given me enough stick for that. Yeah. But we went through quite a quick tender process with the university, which was nice. To the point where we got to interview stage. You know, traditionally interviews are always quite a difficult, nervy. I don't know. Yeah, you're in. Are you pitching it right? Have you got enough people? Have you got too many people? You got too much information? Yeah. But I don't know whether Nigel planned it, but obviously he was late, and the room was kind of like getting a little bit sort of tetchy. You know what's going to happen. Nigel came in, and you met obviously. Yeah. Bam, we're off, and everyone and Nigel's in. First thing I think he said was, we picked me up on them. You're not contractors. We're partners straight away. I don't want to hear contractor ever again. Yep. So I always have to remember when I see him.
That was one thing I really liked about him as well, referring to it as service partners consistently. Service partners.
It's the first telling off I got from him. Yeah. Yeah.
Really good insight though, and it's a really nice way to look at it, because I think in historic times, it's a bit of an old way of thinking, but a lot of the client side can sometimes look as contractors or service partners as beneath, or just they're over there to do the job. Yeah. That's how we'll engage with them. But it's so refreshing to see.
It's funny because you probably experienced, but you sometimes also get that the first interview or the first couple of weeks we're partners, and then boom, the first major problem is you're back to being a contractor and everything's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we've like engaged in a long-term contract, hopefully with Ipswich, a successful contract with the university, and one of Nigel's key desires was to have that longevity, that contract that enabled us to build relationships, to build trust, to grow. Yeah, we're not just want to sit on. So we've got a resident guy and the management team and stuff, but we want to grow it. Yeah, and we see it as a real good platform to grow from Suffolk. Yeah. Well, we've got the college next door, which is a longer term contract for us. Yeah, we've been there a number of years successfully. That's delivering the maintenance there. Yeah. But this first lot of resident site for us, I've always traditionally run with mobile sites. So this is kind of our first true resident site. Yeah. And that's again going back to getting the right people. Mm-hmm. We obviously won the contract, I don't know, 6 months, say. So we had a 6 month mobilisation period. And you think we get that. That's going to take a while. Boom. Within, you think like that, it's two or 3 weeks to start. So key was getting the right resident engineer. Yeah. And we were lucky we got a fantastic guy.
How have you found that? Because I've had this conversation with multiple different businesses, and it's a common theme that's popping up, and I'll pull it back even further in a little while. I want to touch back on the apprentice part. Yeah. But how have you found the talent pool of engineers that are out there now? Do you genuinely believe it's dwindling and we're losing a lot of our skill sets? Yeah. How have you found it?
100% agree. Yeah. It started about 10 years ago, I think. Yeah. And that's, I recall a conversation with my managing director or director where I was at the time about the dwindling, future for us in terms of, and kind of like thinking, well, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
But that's ringing true now to me.
Yeah.
That's I can hear his conversation now, and it's at that point, what would we have done differently?
Yeah.
How do you bring those engineers, that skill pool back up?
Yeah.
And I think, generally, in my opinion, it's going to be a real tough one to turn around, because education is not pointing towards, I guess, apprenticeships, engineering, electricians, plumbers.
Yeah.
Of course, they're out there, and guys are successfully coming through. I mean, NG Bailey apprenticeship scheme is, I say probably one of the best in the country. But I think that's not gonna fix the immediate problem now. That we're seeing technicians or engineers that just don't have the experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's down to the fact that they do move around a lot.
Yeah.
There's I don't know.
Leave one company, the other company's paying £10 more.
Going to promise more money, better
Mm-hmm.
prospects, better terms. I was talking to a business owner last week, and we were talking that exact same thing. And their mantra was, obviously they were supporting the engineers or the technicians they had, paying them well, which was obviously difficult, but also enhancing their terms and conditions, the travel door to door, your training. But I still think you can pile all that in.
Yeah.
And
it's
really hard, John. I feel, because we were talking today about that, the unicorn engineers that we used to have, the guys that could do everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I was good, but I felt I'd probably one of those. And but then they progressed to become managers. So I've got a couple of managers that would have been that unicorn engineer. So whether they're combustion or electrical, they could do a bit of BMS.
Yeah.
They can, although we're in this modern AI world, but we're still going into plant rooms where there is old school.
Of course,
technology.
It's not just going to change overnight. It's going to take time to get the old kit out and the new kit.
You can't Google everything.
No, exactly. Yeah, YouTube doesn't have the answer for absolutely everything.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I think as well, for me, I've been a massive advocate for apprenticeships in general.
Yeah.
Rewinding the clock on myself, I struggled massively to get an apprenticeship. I was terrible at selling houses as an estate agent, and I was more interested in finding out the people that had nice properties, what did they typically do for work? And 90% of them ended up working for themselves in some capacity, and they were tradespeople. Yeah. I didn't have the GCSEs to be able to go down the electrical path.
Yeah.
So plumbing was something that for me was on the table. I put myself back through the college, did the NVQ2, and then tried to look for an apprenticeship. Couldn't find one for love nor money.
No.
And it was a real tough thing to try and get into. And I think that's sustained, 15, 20 odd years later, wherever we are now.
Well, I think we're feeling that now.
Absolutely.
I mean, okay, we've got great apprenticeship schemes coming through now, and that'll help 20 years' time, or 10, 15 years' time.
Yeah.
We may not be in that same situation.
Yeah.
But then I think it then depends on what these apprentices are being taught in terms of the actual nuts and bolts, in terms of how to fix something.
Yeah.
And because it only comes from experience.
Yeah.
And as you know, too often, I'm not belittling, but what the guys will do is how not. I'm going to find out how not to do it, as opposed to how I can do it.
Yeah.
So I can't fix this. Bring in a subcontractor or specialist. Whereas when I was in a plant room, I only got more pleasure out of finding out what went wrong, or why it went wrong, and how to fix it.
Yeah.
And then you just build up your armory of experience.
Definitely. And I think as well, something you touched on a moment ago, which I think is so key and crucial, and you don't even get it through an apprenticeship. I just think I've yet to find the magic ingredient or the right phrasing to nail it, but it's the communication specialists.
Yeah.
You can be the most technically minded, gifted person on the planet. You put them in as residencies in certain environments, and if you don't link or knuckle down that communication piece, it all goes out the window, right?
Yeah.
It's that fine balance between knowing everything and being able to articulate it, and being able to articulate but know nothing. So you have to be able to clearly demonstrate what you're doing and take all your clients on a journey and on a path.
If I was asked, would I take up an apprenticeship now if I know what I know? I would go, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'd know exactly where I'd want to be taking that.
Yeah.
In terms of, like control BMS and I mean everything, and I'm not saying, I disagree with it, but everything's guided at energy saving, which is obviously massively important, but we've got to be able to have the tools to get to that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's okay, how many times you talked about solar hot water on the roof, but actually no one really knows how to fix it or repair it. Yeah. Same as we come up against, air source heat pumps.
Yep, new one, yep.
Great, but we've got excited with two problems, with two weird, the way the system, and they haven't even got anyone that can really, there's no service desk, there's no service department.
Yeah.
So you get a manual, you Google it, and like I was saying, I used to probably be on speed dial with Landerson Gear and people like that when I was, but they don't ring technical help desks and stuff like that anymore. Yeah. I don't even know if they have technical help desks as such. It's all Google. It is put a form in on the internet
and it will give you the answers you need. Yeah. I think it's that care, isn't it? It's that care and attention, that pride element of your work.
Oh yeah,
which
absolutely.
And I don't want to consistently say that younger generations coming through lack that piece of care, but I suppose where we're in an age now. I mean, look what we're doing. We're in an environment where it's all about how quickly can you be rewarded? How quickly can you get your satisfaction? LinkedIn or Instagram and everything else is so...
get some recognition.
It's like feed me really quickly with what's going to spark my interest. I'm always in
trepidation of that because, you see people, we've had a great day today, we fitted this and this, but tomorrow it might have...
gone the other way.
Yeah,
and it's painting both sides of the picture. It's not just showing success is this end 15-second clip, right? It's everything else that goes into it. I mean, again, for yourself, you looking at the journey you just ran us through there to land at NG Bailey in a director role. It's clearly not just happened overnight. It's taken a long time.
Long time. Yeah, and I'm not clearly not at the end of that. Yeah. But it's a completely different world now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like a dinosaur because I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not. But I do fear we want to get the job done, and it just seems to be expanded to get that job done. Yeah. So whereas it used to be talk to the client, submit, get the job done. Now it's what's the prospects? What's the alternatives?
Yeah.
Can you find someone else, or can you find 3 other prices? And I just feel that we just don't get the job done as well as efficiently as we used to. We get there, and it takes a long way to get there sometimes.
What advice would you give to young people coming through now, looking to get into an apprenticeship, looking to get a trade? What kind of advice would you give to those people?
If I could, I would, and if I was able to, you'd like to bring apprentices and give them a showcase of what you're doing. Right, it's great at shows and displays, and we talk about apprentices and going to college. But if you could, one thing, I don't know if you remember, one thing was big was trade tests. And things people would. So I'm going off the beaten track a little bit, but I remember going through the post office for a job as an electrician. I never found an interview so hard. I ended up putting conduits up and light fittings. And,
oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, I've just done a day's work with them.
Yeah.
So it must have been right because I got offered the job. But that was an engineering apprenticeship again. So there's workshops where, now if you said, come along, we're going to go, I don't know, like you say, plumb a bathroom in or put some conduit up or fault find a pump not working or it's not going to happen.
No.
Not going to happen. Obviously, no one's set up to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because we look after a couple of colleges, as I say, and the training bays are all being changed to IT suites or, things like that.
Yeah. The physical element of, just from a plumbing perspective, but the physical element of pipe bending, soldering, and I suppose the changing landscape, for example, central London, inner London, a lot of the grade 1 listed buildings these days, hot work permits and insurance companies, grade 1s, they just physically won't touch it. No. So you're going down push fit in some instances, taboo in itself, and then going down the route of press fit and everything else in between. So it's a new skill set that people are having to get their heads around, but you're totally right. A lot of the time, new apprentices coming through, it's more watch a video on how to do something as opposed to physically picking it up. And how does this all work and fit together?
Yeah, and I'm going back to a question. What would I say? I would say absolutely get into this business, get into this trade, because it's fantastic. Obviously, building services, but try to keep a more open mind on what areas you want to focus on in terms of, don't get just drawn into the glossy energy. This, there is the nuts and bolts stuff of the electrical, of the engineering, or even of the heating.
Yep.
I know it's changing to F-gas and carbon neutral and it is a minefield.
Yeah, it is a massive minefield.
But I'd like to. I mean, we're looking at our first apprentice next year at the uni.
Nice,
and that'll be through HVAC. So that's exciting for us.
Yeah,
we've had an electrical apprentice, which is obviously he's long since completed the apprenticeship. But I think obviously, building services is still a fantastic trade because it's always going to be required.
Yeah,
we're always going to look to keep those buildings going.
Yeah. We just need to put more attention and effort into getting people to get into them.
Yeah.
And
it must be the most common conversation,
absolutely,
I think, at the moment. Is we're all, like I say, we're all feeling, the difficulty in getting the right trades and the right, and people jumping around. And, as I say, it is difficult to get. Let's say, I think we're lucky where we are, NG, in my division, obviously in the loyalty. We still got the same. I got guys that have gone way back with me.
Yeah.
But then in a flip, we've also had a lot of churn.
Yeah.
But then I guess everyone has experienced
Everyone goes through. Yeah, everyone goes through. Yeah, for sure. What would you say, if you were looking back over your career to date now, have been some of the more challenging moments throughout your career?
Yeah, just having to stop to think, where do I want to take the career, rather than just letting it snowball, I guess. When I came head of was sort of developing the business, like we said about, the biggest challenge was obviously now having the responsibility of making that business work. And that's not just, get the job done, like we said. It's about bringing in the right team, bringing in the right people, having the business acumen to know, really, I was really green in terms of obviously the financial side of things, how to be successful in commercial, how to be successful in sales, because it all kind of been different departments. But at this point, it was down to me.
Yeah.
But it was, I think the grounding that I had and the teaching and the as an ops manager before at my previous company, learning how to put strategies together.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting process that I went through. It was hard, but I enjoyed it, and it taught me a lot about getting the right strategy in place.
Yeah.
Transformation stuff we did, all sorts of interesting things when I did my level 5. So that most difficult. Yeah, it's all there's small decisions to make on people, on progress, on hard choices, difficult decisions to make.
Yeah.
To long-term stuff, do we think this job, this client is the right fit for us?
Yeah.
Is it the right, it's all okay saying, are we the right fit for them? But it's the flip side, being brave to make that decision, like we said.
Yeah, because, so many people will go the other way and just say, it's there in front of me. Of course, I've got to accept it. I can't turn it down. I've got to take it.
Yeah.
But being bold and brave enough to be able to actually realise it isn't going to fit as part of our strategy.
Yeah.
It's not the type of work that we want to be dealing with longer term. That in itself is obviously an art to try and get into doing that, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, and time whizzes along, and before you know it, you've done 2-3 years with that client, and you've got to be careful. Complacency can creep in. I think that if we find that with, I suppose we all find it, clients find it, but we find it, contractors, great first year, great 6 months. Then if we don't refresh ourselves and have those right conversations, then we all get complacent, and the at the end of the day, everyone sort of will reap that problems on that, or the benefits. There's no benefits to be had with becoming complacent. So, and treating everyone. I know it's an old cliche, but treating everyone as like you'd like to be treated. So, I know that was a big mantra through NG Bay and through my previous company, how to treat your subcontractors or your people, your suppliers, and you do reap the benefits of having a great relationship with your suppliers, with your subcontractors, because they're so key for us. Because the one thing is you can't really you can't really diversify and try to do everything in-house, because you can. Those days are gone where you've got a water treatment engineer, you've got a fire alarm engineer, and because it's just too big. It's too big a monster to manage.
Absolutely.
Your training, your accreditations, and so try to keep it into and that's the good thing. NG Bailey are always centered on delivering what we say we're going to deliver.
Yeah.
Because I'm a bit gung ho. That's the trouble. I'll go, fencing, no problem. We'll have a go at that.
Yeah.
Bit of catering or
I
end up. I'm not trying to be a TFM, but I've got to hold back a bit.
Yeah. He's trying to look
because
at
your
balance.
clients get good with you, and they're keen to work with one company and they trust you. So if they've got some fencing blown down, or come on, Rich, you could put that up for us, and well, I might know someone.
I think that's 100% resonate with what you're saying, and I think that for me, on the service partner side, if you like, one of the key things that I often find is we will get asked about trades or work that isn't within our remit. We're drainage and plumbing specialists. Anything outside of that, there might be one or two within the business, but we would sooner just turn around and go, do you know what? We're not.
But you know a man has.
We know a company that...
Or a person.
So we will vet the company. Yeah. We'll make sure they've got the same accreditations or insurances and everything else that we would physically want to have. And then we'll go, that's for you to communicate and sort out. But again, it's that thing of understanding where your skills and your parameters and your boundaries are. Absolutely, and being true to them and sticking to them. That's really hard to do sometimes.
That was prevalent with university.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're going, but I think it was the first 2 months, we had a major water leak under the path, under a couple of areas within the university. So we had gallons and gallons of cold water pouring out through the floor.
Yeah.
And, you can see the meters whizzing around and the bills. Yeah. And
building's about to take off for the...
Nigel and his team, we've obviously got a catastrophic leak here, but we can't lose cold water supplies to the university. But we've just got some fantastic set of subcontractors and relationship we have on the phone. Can you do it? Can you do it tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, over there. And I must say, I think it's probably been in Korea the quickest and most efficient way we've dealt with a major problem like that and successfully repaired it without the uni hardly losing. There was water tanks turning up.
Yeah.
We had glass being removed, pipes taken through. We had Harris fencing being delivered.
Yeah. Everything, anything and everything.
Everything was happening, and it happened. Yeah. I mean, superbly. So coming together and like you say, that having know the right people you could trust.
Yeah.
And you've worked with a long while.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you as you know, you go into a contract and they'll go, we want you to use, we want you to stick with these contractors, and could we not use the ones we trust and trust us on that? And it proved the point there.
Yeah, yeah.
And touch wood, they haven't had another leak.
No, that's a good thing. Yeah. So give us some of the highlight points for you in your career so far.
I think quite a few, if I'm honest. Obviously the classic, going through qualifications and getting to the point where I didn't think I'd go after I left school. So with an HNC and an ONC and etc. C course, and then testing and inspecting. So becoming the qualifying supervisor for my business was quite a proud moment for me. I mean, some people don't, but I'd uphold that as quite high. Obviously, taking on that business in its infancy and taking it through its journey to where it was successful enough to be sold rather than split up, I felt a lot of pride and been through a lot with that business, and glad to see it still with me, so to speak. Yeah, just being able to provide obviously massive platforms for other people to go on and have really successful careers. At the time it's quite a difficult time when a manager will come in and say, I've been offered, or I'm going to be off to do this. And the one thing with NG Bailey is we've got a vast business that someone can go and transfer. So I've had managers go over to Wembley and enhance their careers over there. I've got managers now going over to a base in Cyprus.
Wow!
And so bringing people on and seeing guys that have come through as engineers. I've got now contract managers. That's excellent, even within the staff team. So developing their careers and then going on to become office managers and help desk managers, etc., etc. So yeah, seeing them grow, seeing clients, repeat businesses. I think when a client renews, but I always remember when I was a contract manager, I think that was the most rewarding.
Yeah,
you can get wins.
Yeah,
but when they were going to renew, we're really pleased.
Yeah,
that gives most satisfaction.
Yeah.
And being able to talk about it and reminisce, and I think you realise what sort of journey you have been on. And
yeah. I mean, that's it. Often be the case.
Sound like I'm finishing it.
No. But I think you're right. I think so often we will all do it. We kind of put our heads down, we beaver through, and we never really stop, sit up, look back, and kind of just take a moment to reflect on, well, that's been a bit of a journey. I would have done that that way, maybe not. Would I have changed that? Maybe not. And just we often don't give ourselves enough time to be able to do that, I don't think.
No, I think that's right. It's like I forgot harping back to 2012 in the Olympics when I was part of the business that was involved in the stadium and the velodrome.
Yeah.
And albeit I can't sit here and say I was part of the delivery team, but I was involved in the games but also the legacy, which was the hardest part.
Yeah.
Which was when Lee Valley then took over the stadia.
Yeah.
It's great that you've got these all big shiny stadiums and velodromes, but now we're going to hand them back to you, the local council or sports centres, to run them.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck do we do with this
It's
stadium?
huge bit of kit. Yeah.
Well, especially the velodrome. I was on the velodrome, and I'd never been experiencing anything like handing a building like that back, because it had been 24/7 on max everything. Lighting on max. Heating on max, and then we want to turn it down now. Don't know how.
Exactly. How do we now get around that trouble?
That was experience.
Experience.
Dealing in that situation with that sort of with the eyes of the world are kind of upon you. But there was guys way doing more than I was. There was guys on shift. I'd given up because I was running the Essex office. A lot of guys had gone over there to do temporary work. So I guess we were left sitting in the office, and they were on the stadium or on the velodrome. So great fun.
The journey ahead, what does it look like for you now? Where do you envision it over the next 5 years? Where do you want to go?
That's a brilliant question. I mean, there's lot. We seem to be always evolving and changing. I mean, I like change. I don't like to sit still too long. And we've been forced into lots of changes.
Yeah.
But also, as the old cliche, where's your cheese type thing. And, we don't get that where we are in Cambridge. We're either moving office. I have a thing about my staff will tell me, we're never in this. We're in this multi-office block, and I think we've tried most of them so far.
Yeah.
But I tend to get a little bit sort of want to move.
Yeah.
To go to look at a different minute. But anyway, so we're constantly changing the way we are structure, the way we do things. So it's okay. The standard ABC, we're now going to do it CBD or something. We're going to do it a different way. We're going to have a different strategy.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly trying to change it, either by choice or by decisions outside of the business. So if someone leaves, then we're going to restructure, move things around.
Yeah.
Bring someone else on, try a different way.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We're really excited to try and develop within the Cambridge education, because obviously Cambridge is the uni and the colleges. I've always had a history of working within the colleges way back, so keen to try and develop that again.
Yeah,
looking at the businesses around us, what we've got, and try to expand ourselves more geographically local, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whilst remaining obviously within the cause of our business in terms of education and public sector, I guess.
Yeah.
But who knows? It could be, who knows what's around the corner.
Of course.
We could literally something land and we're off and running and doing something completely different.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah. So look, coming close to the end now, one question that I typically like to ask people, if you could take a moment to look back, and we said that a minute ago, right? Very often we do this, and rewind the clock and you had the opportunity to sit down with the 16-year-old version of yourself, what advice would you give that young man?
Get the rights to AI.
Yeah. It's a great one. Here's a winning lottery numbers.
He'd probably go, what the heck are you talking about?
Yeah. Nice.
What advice? That's so difficult, isn't it? Because the vast experiences that I've had in terms of, obviously, I mean, definitely look at building service, look at how the future of that could be evolved. You know, don't be naive to think that there is, you know, nothing involved in terms of controls and BMS, because that's just, I do admire the way BMS companies go about and build their businesses.
Yep.
And obviously refrigeration and HVAC, don't ignore the fact that that's going to be, there'd be so much. I don't think they'd believe what if I told myself this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Big journey.
Massive,
Rich, thanks so much for taking the time.
No, thank you.
To come on down.
Great.
It's been great to hear your story. And no doubt people will resonate massively with what you're saying. There's so much we just covered there in that period of time. And we're all feeling the same effects. And I think the same message, which is nice from my side. I've got the luxury, right, of having this conversation on repeat with multiple successful people.
I think it's quite repetitive, but I think talking about it, you know, you then start to reflect of, like, exactly the questions you're asking should be the questions I'm asking myself now. Yeah. And then asking people that were within my business of what, you know, and then realising that, you know, decisions now can change dramatically.
Yeah. But it's reassuring to see the common theme running through successful businesses like NG Bailey is communication, delivery on the communication, and doing what you set out to do. And that for me is really reassuring. And I have no doubt many people listening to this or watching this will probably resonate with exactly what you're saying.
I hope so.
Thanks so much for taking the time to come down today.
Brilliant. Thanks.